Brian Geltzeiler, he joins us. He's quietly jumped to the Mount Rushmore of our recent guests. There's no doubt about it. What's up, Brian? How you doing?
What's up, guys? I appreciate the kind words. I bet you say that to all the boys.
Nope, not at all. Hey, we've been talking a little bit today about Buddhism and how attachments are at times the root of all our suffering. You know, Draymond Green, as the Bay Area's become very attached to Draymond Green. He's got an opt-out. The Warriors have a chance to either re-sign him or let him walk if he can find another deal. What do you do with the attachment of Draymond Green if you're the Warriors?
All right, let's start with this one. Do we know he's opting out?
We don't. But
we don't. And
well, let me start there. Do you? I think him coming back for 1 year is off the table. I would think. Maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead.
So, listen, I think that he's certainly going to approach them about an extension if he hasn't already.
Right.
And the one thing that Draymond has shown is that Draymond is much smarter, I think, than a lot of people give him credit for. And I say that in this respect. Draymond understands that his value to the Warriors, what he does for Steph Curry, what Steph Curry does for him, is something that would be very, very hard to replicate somewhere else. Now, not to say he couldn't go and be the right kind of supporting guy for another star player in another location, but the fit's always going to be a question until it's not a question. So it's one of those things where you know what you got, you don't know what you're getting. So Draymond has shown the Warriors in the past that he's willing to accept less than what he perceives his market value to be to stay in this situation. And I think in the end, right now, and I know Steph Curry's getting up there in years. I know he's been in the league a long time. But as long as he's still playing at the level he's playing at, and he's one of the best players in the league, and he's a guy capable of being the best player on an NBA champion, what you do has to be a function of Steph. And there's no bigger function of Steph than Draymond Green. Now, am I suggesting that you have to go pay Draymond Green a max contract if he asks for one? Absolutely not. But I'm also telling you that Draymond's smarts would indicate he's not going to ask for one because he knows he's not going to get one. Draymond's going to ask for a number that he thinks they're going to agree to. And I think when that happens, I think they will sign him to an extension. They will try to stretch this run out at least for and listen, that extension's not going to be a 4-year extension. That may be an extra year. That may be an extra 2 years max. Listen, with this new CBA, the Warriors are in trouble keeping this team together at these kinds of numbers. And ultimately, they really have to trade Jordan Poole this offseason. If not this offseason, then the one after. Because I just don't know that it's working for him with the Warriors anymore. But I do think you have to understand that we are down to the last 2 or 3 years of this run here, and that the Warriors are going to start to wind some of that down. But I do think Draymond will have a clear understanding he's better off here than he is anywhere else.
Wow, Brian, always a pleasure to talk to you. I know you're not a mind reader, Brian, either am I, but you won't believe how many calls we're taking and texts we're getting that LeBron could come to the Warriors. And I'm like, what? They just went to the Western Conference Finals. Brian, I know the King is mad they got swept, but he did that to say, to kind of take away from that. But Kyrie Irving is out there, and I'm telling my partner there's no way in hell they're not going to try to unload and get Kyrie. But when you hear possibly LeBron teaming up with Steph, what comes to mind?
Fantasy basketball. That's it. Because I don't think it's going to happen. And listen, understand something about LeBron. And I am also one of the only things I have in common on this planet, besides the love of basketball with LeBron James, is that I am also an AAU dad. And as an AAU dad, I drive to the ends of the earth, travel to the ends of the earth, because there's no greater pleasure I get than watching my son play basketball.
Awesome.
LeBron is the same way. LeBron loves watching his kids play basketball. And you know what? He's going to have Bronny at USC. Bryce is moving high schools, but is still going to be in that area. I just don't see him leaving. I see him retiring before he leaves. I really do. I don't see him running to leave L.A. This was a really good run for the Lakers. And you know what? Listen, D'Angelo Russell, let's be frank about it, guys. He was useless in the
Oh, man.
Like, useless. So if you could find a way to go get Kyrie Irving, who LeBron really wants to play with, and sign him to a 2 or a 3 year deal, which is the most Kyrie's going to get from anybody anyway, and it would probably take less to come to the Lakers, and bring him there, you rejuvenate LeBron a little bit. Plus, you got Kyrie and AD together on the days that LeBron doesn't play, because I will say this, the days of LeBron playing 70 to 75 games are completely over. I think this year he realized, because this is the other part of it with LeBron. Like, the dude played on a bad foot. Like, he tore a tendon in that foot the end of February. And he went to a bunch of doctors till he found one that said, hey, you can play with this thing. LeBron's foot was killing him at the end of that game. You could see it. He was frustrated as could be, because not only did he come 1 assist away from a 40-point triple-double in the conference elimination game, in the conference finals, in his 20th year in the league at the age of 38, okay? But he also guarded Jokic or Murray the entire fourth quarter. Like, he gave everything that he had. And I think for him, LA is probably the place that he's going to wrap up his career. He'll continue playing with Anthony Davis. He'll get them to bring Kyrie in. He'll get them to bring Hachimura and Austin Reeves back, and he'll have guys that he's comfortable playing with. I think he knows what he has there. To run to Golden State or run to another team to try to do a little ring chasing routine, I just don't see that for LeBron. So LeBron's all about legacy also, guys. I don't see that helping his legacy. I think staying where he is, bringing what he can there, and living the life that he wants to live, being happy and comfortable, I think that's what it's all about for him.
Brian Geltzeiler joining us on 95.7 The Game. You can hear him on Sirius XM NBA Radio. See, this is sometimes my partner likes to throw me under the bus a little bit. Context is so important. 2 days ago, I see a Ringer article by Kevin O'Connor. I don't know if you were familiar with it or not, about why LeBron would say he's retiring, and then he gave 4 reasons. One of the reasons, and he suggested LeBron and the Warriors could have mutual interest. Then I opened up my inbox this morning, and I got odds from Vegas saying LeBron's next team, and the Warriors are on the list. So here was what I said. I said, you know what? I don't like any of the choices that the Golden State Warriors have, whether it's extending Draymond or re-signing Draymond or not. I think they're in a rock and a hard place. I think they're in trouble. But let me tell you what, if the Warriors had a chance to get LeBron James, Joe Lacob, their owner, would absolutely, positively be very enticed by pairing Curry and LeBron James for 2 years.
I think he would be. I just don't think the chance is going to be there for him.
Yeah.
I don't think LeBron's going to want to uproot his life. He's put too much into being in that area.
Fair.
Ronnie going to USC is kind of the cherry on top of the sundae, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
fair.
It's,
Fair. I just wanted to give it.
And Matt, I'll also say this. I don't know that I totally agree with you about the Warriors being in a completely unenviable spot, too. I think that there is a universe here where they can continue to develop both Moody and Kuminga. I think the biggest mistake they would make would be trade Jonathan Kuminga. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. I think there's a universe that you can develop these two who can be very, very effective players for you as supporting players for Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and then, start to build something and keep those guys there long term. To me, the guy that's got to go is Poole, and there's a major reason why I'll tell you Poole has to go. I thought the Warriors made a huge mistake last offseason in how they handled Poole and Wiggins. Follow my logic here. They won an NBA championship. We're not going to argue that Steph Curry was the best player on both teams, the best player there was in the 2022 NBA playoffs and NBA finals. The second best player on the Warriors, and I will fight you at a steel cage match to that death on this, guys. All right? The second best player on the Warriors was Andrew Wiggins, and it wasn't even close. He was tremendous offensively. His defense on Tatum was excellent. His defense on Brown when he played him was excellent. Wiggins was absolutely outstanding. Poole at times in that series was unplayable because that's how bad his defense was. And contract time came in the offseason. And what message did the Warriors send the young players that haven't gotten paid on that team? Offense is all that matters. Because the second best player on our team and our best defensive player in that series, Andrew Wiggins, got a $28 million a year extension, and we paid Jordan Poole $35 million a year, who was a one-way player who was not playable for big chunks of time during the finals. Now, if you're Moody and Kuminga, and even to a lesser extent James Wiseman is not there anymore, are you really going to bust it on defense when you know your path to getting the paycheck that you want to get, and to, as the kids like to say, securing the bag? Okay, is going to end up being that path is through shots and stats. The Warriors just showed you that by paying Poole what they paid him and paying Wiggins what they paid him. And it's made a problem with getting through to the young players to let them understand the importance of being good defensive players. And that's part of my point. Shipping Poole out, doing what you have to. Who cares if you get anything back? You got to get rid of the money anyway. Shipping Poole out will put you in a spot where you can reset the mindset of those two really good, promising young guys you have in Moody and Kuminga, and let them know, listen, guys, we made a mistake. We're not rewarding offense as much as we're rewarding defense right now because we shipped the all-offense guy out already. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah,
man.
I mean, that's a perspective I've not heard before and find very interesting.
No doubt. Brian, I'm going to throw a curveball at you because, I run hot in regard to my takes. And, when you get situations and coaches in any sport, but I'll use Doc Rivers, I thought he should have been fired. And I just feel like you can look at his record of the choke jobs and series. I like Doc, but I felt like it was time for him to go. But you look at Monty Williams, you look at Nick Nurse, you look at Coach Bud in Milwaukee, I'm asking you, because I know social media is big and it's a platform for fans to have their voice heard. And I'm starting to think, is that why some of these teams are quick to say bye to a Monty Williams who had his team in the finals a couple years ago? Coach Bud has a ring. Do I dare ask you, am I sounding soft when I say, is it bad for the league how some of these coaches are getting just tossed?
I don't think it's bad for the league. I think coaches are hired to be fired unless your last name is Popovich or Spoelstra. It's just the way the league works. And I'll tell you this. It's interesting because I have a very different perspective than you on this, Darryl. The Coach Bud firing did not bother. The only bother me about it was his brother passing away because it just seemed on a human level to be a little bit cruel. But I do understand that on a basketball level. You can't have a title contender that doesn't have a chance to win a game because the coach forgets he has a timeout. The Bucks play one style of defense. And the year they won the championship, Coach Bud mixed it up, and then he stopped mixing it up. Now, Coach Bud defenders will say to you, well, he's got this great, drop defensive player in Brook Lopez. Why don't you play drop coverage the whole time? Well, because when you play one coverage the whole time, teams get used to it, they scout it out, and they learn how to beat it, which is exactly what happened to Milwaukee. So I understand why Coach Bud got fired. Monty's case, listen, 2 years in a row, an elimination game in your own building. You were down 30 at the half. 2 years in a row. It's the old expression, step in dog poop once, it's the dog's fault. Step in it twice, and it's yours. Like, this happens again here. So you look at it, you have to say, in big games that matter the most, is Monty in touch with his team to get them to go play hard? And yes, players should play hard on their own technically, but there's a message the players are sending you about how they're responding to this head coach when that happens. So I was okay with both of those. And the funny part about it, listen, I'll hold to this. Doc got fired because he was not able to take them further than the second round, and more than that, he wasn't able to avenge the 2021 second-round loss to the Atlanta Hawks, which was the inexcusable series loss that Doc had. Last year against Miami, they weren't better. They just weren't. And this year against Boston, I'll actually tell you that I thought he overachieved with that team. And I picked them to go to the finals beginning of the year, but they were not as good as I thought they were. They were not as deep as I thought they were. Guys that they were going to count on that were supposed to play big roles, guys like the Anthony Melton stunk in that series, really did nothing late in the series. Doc was, stuck with 5.5 players. And I thought he wove some magic to get them there. I really did. James Harden, to me, is the one that really deserved a lot more blame than Doc Rivers. With that said, I do understand why they decided to move on from him at this stage. I get it. It's not something I would have decided to do. But my point being is that I think this spate of firings, and let's face it, if Miami wins Game 5 in Boston, Joe Mazzulla's going to follow these guys out the door. Yeah. And I think that coaches are hired to be fired, and it's a league where players make a lot of money, and if players perceiving that you're not adding value anymore, then you kind of have lost your usefulness to these organizations, and that's why they're saying goodbye.
Brian Geltzeiler joining us on 95.7 The Game. You can hear him on Sirius XM NBA Radio. He's become a favorite of ours. Let me take you through, go further than something you said. All right, Draymond Green, smart guy. Let's re-sign at a good number. How about 3 for $75? You good with that?
I would. If you told me I could have 2 for $50 and the third year being a team option at $25, I'm good with that.
Okay, got it. That's done. Don't you have to do something with Klay Thompson knowing that Curry and Draymond are going to be, are under contract for a couple years, but can you bring Clay back on? No, he knows he's on the last year. Or do you have to do something with him too?
This is the advantage you have when you've had a guy his entire career. This is an advantage you have when you have a forget about player, a man like Klay Thompson, who is very, very. He looks in the mirror and he's got some self-awareness. He understands who he is in this game. He always has understood who he is in this game. And I think for Klay, he's been richly financially rewarded for the role that he's played, the massive role that he's played in this Warriors dynasty. And I think to turn to Klay and sit him down and say, listen, we want you back. We don't necessarily want you back at the same number. You tell us what you're thinking. We'll tell you what we're thinking, and let's figure it out. And I think there's something to be figured out with Klay that's going to go past the max deal. And maybe the conversation is, you know what, if Klay's number is so much higher than the Warriors' number, maybe the conversation is, you know what, pal? Let's play it out this year. Let's see how it goes, and we'll sit down and have the same conversation next year, and with the understanding that we do want to be together long term. Because I think the Warriors need Klay, and Klay needs the Warriors. The Warriors just don't need Klay at $45 million a year, right. and I think that's going to be where the difference comes in. The thing is, what's going to be a hard pill for Klay to swallow, because he's a very prideful player and a very prideful guy, is that what he's going to want is not going to be out there in the open market. And I think that's something he's going to have to face. And if he doesn't want to face that with the Warriors, it could get a little bit rocky here. But again, I do think multiple conversations are in order about what Klay's viewing about his market value. And I also think that, listen, this guy's been paid a lot of money over the years. There is a sentimental value to both Draymond and Klay Thompson in wrapping up their careers and finishing up here in Golden State, in San Francisco, with Curry, with this group, with this organization, and knowing that they saw the whole thing through and did everything they could. I think there's value in that for both sides. So I have a lot of confidence in both sides that they'll be able to figure out the right numbers for everybody.
B, we'll get you out of here on this one. I don't have one hateful bone in my body. But you brought up Popovich, and I thought about the Spurs, them winning, getting Wembanyama. And I believe it was Woj who said that Wemby was the biggest prospect or the best prospect or most promising one ever in sports. And B, I got to tell you, I thought about LeBron James in high school. His game, I don't got to tell you, they were broadcasted in high school. And to me, he's over-delivered. But can I ask you your thoughts on Wemby? And just, do you think he's further than LeBron in regard to promise?
No. And listen, let's start with this now. Woj is telling you what he's hearing, not necessarily what he's thinking. Okay, Adrian's an information guy, and I think it's important to note that he's telling you what scouts are out there saying. Now, and I've watched Wembanyama a handful of times. I think he's a fantastic prospect. I think he is one of the best prospects we've seen in the last 20 years. I'm not telling you this guy's going to be one of the best players in the NBA within 3 years. I just don't. Wow. I don't know that that's the case. Listen, keep a couple of things in mind about, and I think he's going to be excellent. But is he leading the Spurs to a top 4 seed next year? No, probably not. He may not be the prospect Duncan ended up being. And he could be every bit of the player in the end, but maybe for right now, it's not that prospect. I just think he needs a little bit. He's 18 years old. He shot 28% from 3 this year, guys.
Yeah.
Wow. So he needs some room for growth. He's got to put some of the right kind of weight on his body to be able to mitigate against injury. He's terrific at handling the ball, but again, he's got to be able to do that against NBA competition, where the amazing value in Victor Wembanyama lies is what he can bring you on the defensive end of the floor. The dude's got he's 7'5" and bare feet with an 8-foot wingspan. And
great call.
You'll think you got buy-in, and he will block a shot where you never even saw him. That's the kinds of things he can do, because the arms can come from everywhere. He moves really well defensively. He has excellent defensive instincts. He's a wonderful help defender right now. He'll be majorly impactful on day one in the league. But we just have to slow the roll on this guy being the best ever and descending to a top spot in the league as soon as he arrives. Could he be that in 5 years? No doubt he could be that in 5 years. But again, the hype machine is in overdrive on this guy right now. Let's just wait. I mean, there has been a lot of players over the years that we've seen the hype machine. I remember what everybody was saying about Andrew Wiggins for a time. right? Didn't we have Ben Simmons at one point as the next LeBron? Look, these are all these things that happen when we start hyping guys up. So I do think that, like, the whole Wembanyama thing is hype on steroids, and we just got to let the guy settle in. With all that said, I will say this. He's in the right place to truly develop and realize all of his potential. That's a spot where they have a fantastic organization. They know how to develop guys. They know how to make them work hard. It's a great place for him, and I think he's going to be a wonderful player. I just don't necessarily think he's going to be Wilt Chamberlain day one when he steps foot on a basketball court, or Kevin Durant, whoever else the hell they want to compare.
Right. Hey, Brian, thank you so much for joining us. You've been really generous with your time, and we really appreciate it, man.
Always my pleasure, guys. We'll do it again soon. Enjoy the rest of the playoffs.
Cool. That's Brian Geltzeiler, Sirius XM NBA Radio.